Money built an army long before a single shot was fired. But what if that money didn't exist? Before tanks rolled across Europe, before Hitler's speeches echoed through stadiums, Nazi Germany pulled off one of history's greatest financial illusions. A shadow economy built on forged promises, hidden companies, and a trail of paper that almost nobody could see. This was the MEFO scheme, the Nazi Ponzi structure that secretly financed the rearmament of a nation preparing for war. It began with a country too broke to fight, and ended with a world at war. The paradox of rearmament. 1933. In 1933, Germany was a broken nation. The Great Depression had torn through its economy. Unemployment soared, and faith in democracy had collapsed. When Adolf Hitler rose to power that January, he promised a rebirth, not just political, but economic. His dream, to restore pride, expand territory, and build an unstoppable military force. But there was one problem. Germany was broke. Under the Treaty of Versailles, its army was limited to 100,000 men. Its air force was banned, its navy reduced to relics, and every mark spent on weapons was tightly monitored by the victorious Allies. Hitler's vision of rapid rearmament, of tanks, planes, and factories seemed impossible, and yet, within 6 years, Germany possessed one of the most powerful armies in the world. How? Not through gold or taxes, but through deception, the financial straitjacket. In the early 1930s, Germany's economy was still gasping for air. Industrial output lagged. The government was drowning in debt. To rebuild a massive military, Hitler needed billions. Money that didn't exist and couldn't be openly borrowed. Public loans were restricted. The Weimar Constitution capped interest rates on government bonds at 4.5%, too low to attract investors, too risky to hide. And the memory of 1923's hyperinflation, when a loaf of bread cost billions of marks, haunted the German people. Printing money was political suicide. Borrowing openly meant international outrage. So, the Nazi regime faced a paradox. They needed to build an army in secret, without printing cash, without raising taxes, and without alerting foreign spies. That's when one man proposed an idea so strange, it seemed impossible. A way to fund a war with invisible money. His name was Hjalmar Schacht, the architect and the mask. Hjalmar Schacht was no Nazi ideologue. He was a technocrat, a banker and economist who had rescued Germany once before, stabilizing the mark after the hyperinflation disaster. When Hitler came to power, Schacht returned as head of the Reichsbank, Germany's central bank, and later became Minister of Economics. He understood the problem better than anyone. Germany couldn't legally fund rearmament, but it couldn't survive without it. His solution, a shell game, legal on paper, impossible to trace, and fatally brilliant. In 1934, Schacht created a company called Metallurgische Forschungsgesellschaft, mercifully shortened to MEFO, the Metallurgical Research Corporation. It sounded industrial, scientific, legitimate, but it was fake. No factory, no employees, no production line, just a post office box and an illusion. The dummy corporation. To make MEFO appear real, Schacht enlisted Germany's industrial titans, Krupp, Siemens, Rheinmetall, and Güterverwaltungsschutz, to invest a symbolic 1 million Reichsmarks. These companies were thrilled. The Nazi government was their biggest customer, and through MEFO, they could build weapons without leaving a trace on official accounts. Behind the curtain, MEFO was controlled by the Ministry of Defense and the Reichsbank. Every director answered directly to Nazi officials. On paper, it was private. In reality, it was state-run. MEFO was a mask, a corporate ghost created to launder war spending into legitimate business. The silent currency. Once MEFO existed, the real magic began. The company started issuing MEFO bills, special promissory notes, ORIOS, worth millions. Here's how it worked. When the government ordered weapons, tanks, or aircraft. It didn't pay the manufacturers in cash, it paid them in MEFO bills, 6-month notes promising future payments plus 4% annual interest. That interest was higher than most bank deposits. A tempting deal. And although MEFO looked private, everyone knew the real guarantor was the Reichsbank. To the arms manufacturers, that meant one thing: the bills were as good as gold. Companies could hold them, trade them, or cash them early for a small fee. Soon, these bills began circulating across industries, passed from supplier to supplier like currency. Factories used them to pay steel suppliers. Steel companies used them to buy coal. Coal suppliers paid their workers, all through MEFO credit. Billions flowed through the economy, but no money was printed, no loans declared, and no laws technically broken. Between 1934 and 1938, over 12 billion Reichsmarks of rearmament were secretly funded through this system. Hitler's war machine was rising, powered by a currency that didn't exist. The genius of deception. Schacht's creation was a masterpiece of financial engineering and fraud. By keeping the bills off the books, Germany's national debt appeared stable. Inflation stayed low. The world saw a recovering economy, not a rearming empire. To investors abroad, Germany looked disciplined. To citizens at home, life improved. Unemployment fell. Factories boomed. But every MEFO bill carried a silent timer, a promise to pay that would one day come due. Like all Ponzi structures, it could survive only as long as people believed it would. The reckoning. For 5 years, the illusion held. But by 1938, the bills began to mature. 12 billion marks in hidden debt were now due for repayment, and the Reichsbank simply didn't have the money to buy time. Schacht rolled over the bills, extending deadlines every 90 days. But the math was collapsing. If too many companies demanded payment, the entire economy could implode. The scheme now depended on constant renewal, paying old promises with new ones. It had become a full-scale Ponzi system. Schacht pleaded for restraint. He urged Hitler to slow military spending, to issue real bonds, to stabilize the books. Hitler refused. War was coming, and Hitler demanded more weapons, more soldiers, more speed. The breaking point. In desperation, Schacht tried one last solution: borrow from stolen wealth. By 1938, Nazi policy had already begun targeting Jewish citizens. Their homes, businesses, and assets were confiscated or forcibly sold under the process called Aryanization. Schacht proposed using this looted property as collateral for new loans. It was a grim step, using theft to keep a fraud alive. Still, it wasn't enough. By early 1939, Schacht confronted Hitler personally, warning that the MEFO system was collapsing. He insisted that the Reichsbank could no longer guarantee debts it couldn't pay. Hitler's response was blunt. He didn't care. A month later, Schacht was dismissed as head of the Reichsbank. The architect of the shadow currency was gone, and the system he built now stood on the edge of ruin. From fraud to plunder, with Schacht out of the way, the Nazis found a new solution: theft on a global scale. In March 1939, Germany invaded Czechoslovakia. Within days, Nazi financial officials seized the Czechoslovak National Bank and forced the transfer of its gold reserves, billions of Reichsmarks worth, into German control. That stolen gold became the regime's lifeline, covering MEFO's unpaid bills and fueling the continued expansion of the army. 6 months later, Germany invaded Poland, and the same pattern followed. Treasuries, banks, and gold reserves were plundered to prop up a collapsing economy. The illusion of prosperity was now powered entirely by conquest. Each new invasion delayed the financial collapse, but made it inevitable. The financial time bomb. The MEFO scheme officially ended in 1938, but by then, it had already transformed Germany into a war machine. It was a system built on trust without truth, money without value, and promises without payment. Every modern Ponzi scheme, from corporate frauds to crypto collapses, follows the same dark logic: borrow tomorrow to survive today. In Nazi Germany, that deception didn't just destroy balance sheets, It destroyed nations. The shadow currency of MEFO Bills was a mirror of the regime itself. Powerful, ambitious, and doomed by its own illusion. In the end, Germany didn't just run out of money, it ran out of lies.